Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol character spotlight. And today we are taking a look at Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew herself. And yeah, this is another one where I was kind of surprised to realize I haven't actually gotten around to Spider-Woman yet because I really, really like this model and this character. This was another one for me, kind of like Gwenom, where I was super stoked when I realized that the character was actually good and had some cool things going on because I really, really like the character. So, yeah, definitely a character I really, really like. I don't play her as often as I probably should because she doesn't necessarily fit the type of list that I play super often, but she is a really, really good model. So, yeah, let's go ahead and jump right in here. So, she's coming in with 4-3-3 defensive stats. So, you got that immediate stronger side there on the physical. She is a 4 threat with 6 stamina. So yeah, that all kind of tracks so far there. She's a size 2 and a long mover, so she's going to be moving around the board fairly quickly if she wants to be. Next, she has two attacks here. The first one is her Bioelectric Strike. This is a range 3 5 dice energy builder attack, so you're going to gain power based on the damage that you deal. And you have the Wild Neuro Disruption trigger. Before damage is dealt for each wild in the attack roll, the defending character gains one of the following conditions, and you can give out poison, shock, or stun. Yeah, this is a really, really solid builder. I mean, it's not hitting incredibly hard, but it is on the energy side, which is a lot of models' weaker side, at least compared to physical. You're hitting from range 3, so you get a little bit of versatility with that as well. And this trigger is really, really good. It's for each wild, so you can potentially apply all three conditions. And honestly, all three of these conditions are great in different situations. A lot of the time, shock or stun is going to be the most meaningful one, depending what you're going up against. But poison matters a lot too because she does have some synergies in her own kit with the poison condition. And that starts to come in with Intoxicating Blast here. This is another energy attack, but this is her spender. It's going to cost her 3 power, is a range 2 attack, and it's going to throw out 7 dice. So you got to get a little bit closer for this one, and obviously got to spend some power, but you do get a couple extra dice, and of course it does have some other rules here. The first one being the Wild Sensory Overload. If the target character has the poison special condition, so we were just mentioning that, before damage is dealt, this character may advance the target character small. So you basically get to do a bow, and it is before damage. So if you take them down with this stack, you get to walk them before you take them down as well. Set them up to be in a bad spot for when they wake up or something like that. So yeah, that's really, really solid. And then you also have, after this attack is resolved, the target character drops all objective tokens it is holding. So right out the gate we have an objective drop here. Really, really good. Obviously, these are quite useful abilities. Being able to steal points directly from your opponent is usually a relatively powerful thing to be able to do, since that's how most games are won. So, yeah, this is really, really solid attack. From this attack profile, we're not hitting too hard. There's no crazy amount of dice or pierces or rerolls or anything crazy like that there. It's not weak either. I mean, 5 dice is fine. 7 dice is pretty solid. They're both on energy, so it's a reasonably good attacking side. But you're not going to be expecting to one or two shot particularly many characters with these attacks, but they do some damage. The big thing is they have some great utility with all these conditions you can hand out. The bow if you've set up the poison, and then the objective drop, of course, being really, really strong. So solid attack profile so far. Next, we get into I Don't Fly, I Glide. This is an active superpower that's going to cost you 2 power, and it just says place this character within range 2 of its current position. This superpower can only be used once per turn. This is solid. Basically a smaller web swing, so not quite as good as a lot of the other web warriors have for mobility, but still really, really useful and is really, really nice with some of her kit. I mean, we've already kind of seen she uses that builder at range 3, but when you want to get in for the spender, great to be able to do that. And having action compression on a objective drop is always really nice. So being able to kind of use that to get in, drop the objectives, and then, long move away, super nice to have because of course then you get to bring all those objectives with you and hopefully to safety and away from your opponent. So yeah, pretty solid there. Next, she also has the Interrogate superpower. This is a 3-cost reactive that says at the start of the cleanup phase, if this character is within range 2 of one or more dazed enemy characters, it may use this superpower. Its controlling player increases the amount of VPs they score from crises cards during the cleanup phase by 1. So basically, you score 1 extra victory point if you have the 3 power to burn and you're within 2 of a dazed enemy character. This is just really good. I mean, scoring VPs, once again, just generally how games are won. So yeah, really, really useful ability when you can get it off. Is a little bit expensive. She doesn't have the best power generation in the world, but still really, I'll pay 3 power for a victory point any day. So yeah, that's really, really good if you can set it up. You won't always have the ability to do so, but it is quite good. Next, you have the Martial Artist superpower. We've seen this one before on a few characters. Basically, when you're defending against physical or energy attacks in range 2, so you do have to be relatively close for this, you add blanks in your defense roll to your total successes. So you do have to be careful here because that does only apply at range 2 and you are using a range 3 attack primarily. So that's something you can kind of take advantage of with your I Don't Fly, I Glide to either bring yourself closer, set yourself up for some spenders and make sure you have that online, or to back yourself up to take advantage of the next superpower here, which is stealth, which is, of course, characters have to be within range 3 to target you with attacks. So you kind of have this weird situation here where range 3 is what you attack at, but also it's the worst range for you to be at. You want to always be at either range 2 or range 4 of enemy characters whenever possible. So you can either benefit from your one of your 2 types of defensive tech here, or of course if they're attacking Mystic, then you're just out of luck. But or at least with Martial Artist, that is. So yeah, solid defensive profile here. Definitely makes you think about positioning and things like that. So you want to keep that in mind with Spider-Woman here. Lastly, you have immunity to poison, which is handy. Like we said, she's not the fastest power generator in the world, so things that slow you down are annoying. Being immune to that is good. And then you also have wall crawler here, so yeah, that's solid. I mean, yeah, that helps you really get around with that long move. You're not going to be held up by that too often. So yeah, really, really nice to have that there. But yeah, that is it for her card there. Looking at the flip side real quick, there is one slight change, and that is you do go down to 5 stamina, so you are a little bit squishier on the flip side. But otherwise, no major change there. So yeah, that's our card. We're gonna go ahead and look at some of the other things here, such as cards and or affiliations. So looking at tactics cards here, she has 2 cards here. The first one we're going to look at is Double Agent. This is an unaffiliated reactive card that says at the start of the activation phase, an allied Spider-Woman may spend 2 power to play this card. Choose an enemy character. The next time the chosen character gains an activated token, remove an activated token from Spider-Woman. So this one could be really, really interesting. A lot of the times you're going to want to play this when you have priority, and then you pick a model on your opponent's team that you know is going to have to go at a relatively pivotal moment. So basically, you go first with Spider-Woman, you put the activated token on her, and then as soon as they go with that character, it comes off and she'll get to go again, which is obviously really, really useful. You do have to be careful because if your opponent has priority, then they can just immediately activate with the model that you've selected, and because Spider-Woman doesn't already have one, you'll get no benefit from this. But the ability to activate twice with a model like this is potentially really, really good, especially with things like an objective drop and things like that. So yeah, really, really solid card. You're just going to have to be careful because it is something your opponent can play around. And, obviously if they take Spider-Woman down or something like that, it's not going to matter. So really good card if you can get it off and can have huge impacts on a game. But your opponent does have some agency to try and stop you with it. The other card here is On Patrol. This is a team up card with Carol, and it does work with either of the Captain Marvels here. So an allied Spider-Woman or an allied Carol Danvers may spend 2 power to play this card during the power phase. So notably, only one of them has to pay for it, but it does benefit both of them, and you can choose to play this card without having the other model there. This round, whenever an enemy character interacts with or picks up an objective token, both Carol Danvers and Spider-Woman may advance small. I think this card is really, really fun. If you're playing on a pay-to-flip map, specifically something where you're expecting them to flip a lot, this card could potentially get a lot of value. I'm specifically thinking something like a sword base or something like that. Actually, that could be a really interesting 15 on sword where you bring maybe Spider-Woman, Carol 2, and She-Hulk. That could be a really interesting list there where you can get a lot of mileage out of this card, and you of course have the power because of the A-Force leadership. So something like that I think could be really interesting for this card. But on most scenarios, anywhere where you're not you're not doing like a pay to flip, or you're not expecting to have tons of objectives on the ground that your opponent's going to be constantly interacting with. It's usually left at home in those cases just because you're not going to get that much value out of that 2 power. That said, you can kind of play into it a little bit with Spider Woman, even on scenarios where maybe you're only able to hold one of each objective and Spider-Woman already has one. You can still be using her spender to drop objectives on your opponent's models, which they're of course then going to go and pick back up, and then you're going to be able to get those advances. So maybe that can help you, put out some attacks, maybe do some damage here and there, zap some of your opponent's power in that with having to re-interact with things, and then Spider-Woman and Carol get to, advance, move on to objectives or into better defensive positions or stuff like that. So you have some interesting play with it. I do think it's a really cool card, and I definitely love that they have a team up card. So that is just great from a fluff perspective. But yeah, I think it's a really situational one. But when it's good, it definitely can have a big impact on a game. Looking at affiliations, Spider-Woman is a member of a whopping 5 affiliations. She's really been on all of the teams here. So we're just going to go ahead and go top to bottom in order here. So the first one is A-Force, and we already talked about this a little bit. She does synergize quite well with A-Force. She, obviously really benefits from the leadership. It's great to be able to throw some power on her when she needs it, because that'll fuel her kit, which she can easily spend a lot of power in a round. I mean, I don't fly, I glide. She wants to use all the time. The spender is quite good, being able to drop objectives. You're already on 5 power there, and then if you can get that interrogate off, that's also really meaningful. So you can easily spend 8 power in a round with her. So yeah, having the ability to kind of funnel power into her is super nice. Similarly, she has that team up card with Carol, and both of the Carols are here as well. So there's a little bit of value there. And if you really want to play that sort of game of just, stealing your opponent's objectives, you can kind of double down with Black Cat there as well. So you have a few interesting options. And I think she synergizes reasonably well with those models. And then when you are in those bad ranges where your opponents are able to hit you at range 3 and stuff, you do have access to a couple bodyguards as well, which can be really nice for her too. Especially if it's like, a turn where you're going to get interrogate off. She's already in position for that, but your opponent's trying to take her down before you can get it. Okoye, She-Hulk take a couple hits there, and suddenly, hey, now you've got the. Not only can you funnel the power into her to make sure she has the power to interrogate, but they weren't able to take her down, so you're going to get the extra VP. So yeah, I think she's actually really good here. She's got a great home. Um, Obviously, being a 4 threat with a 6 threat leader, that's starting you out at 10 if you're including her in the squad, so it is a little bit pricey, but I do think she's a really valuable inclusion here. The next affiliation she is a member is of course Avengers, and yeah, she benefits a fair bit, I think, from honestly all 3 of the leaderships here. Once again, we're going to kind of disregard Hulkbusters here, but yeah, we'll just kind of go in order here. So the first one is Sam's, and Sam's lets you advance, heal, and remove a special condition when any of your models are dazed or KO'd. And yeah, this is really good for her. I mean, she's got some solid defensive tech. The advance can help her get in and out of the ranges she needs to be in. Special condition removal is always nice, especially if she's been stunned or something like that. So yeah, really solid there. Um, yeah, not much notes. I mean, Sam generally likes to run a little wide, so she's slightly above the threat level of Sam's kind of average model. But that's not too bad. Occasionally, you still want 1 or 2 of those. She's got an objective drop, so of course she's got some value to the team through that. And she does have that bulkiness that he kind of likes to have on a squad. So yeah, she's pretty good with him. Next, we also of course have Original Steve, reducing the cost of the first superpower used by 1 is really good. Yeah, you get to use your I don't fly I glide first turn if you want, which can really help you get some nice early attacks out in just usually she'll be able to round 1 attack anyways, but this kind of guarantees it, especially if they're more on like back points and things like that. You can even kind of play the game of like, okay, well, we're gonna long move up, hit you, and then use our place to make sure we're on an objective or something like that. So you can kind of play around with stuff like that. And yeah, it's pretty solid. The bodyguard as well, we kind of mentioned the value of that earlier. And yeah, she's fairly power hungry, so being able to make that just slightly easier can be pretty nice for her. The last one here is of course Steve 3, and this one's just nice because it can guarantee you those wilds on your builders there, put out those conditions a little bit more often if you're relying on the bow on that spender. So you have to get the wild on both the builder and the spender to make that happen. So this will at least help you get one of those two, and from there you just gotta you just gotta get the dice on the other one. But between a 5 dicer and a 7 dicer, you should get one of them naturally. So yeah, I think she's got reasonable play under any of the leaderships here, and she is an objective drop that is affiliated, so she's kind of competing with something like Brother Voodoo, Brother Daniel from Doctor Voodoo here. She's kind of competing for that objective drop slot with him, but I mean, there's definitely an argument to run both, especially if you're in a kind of extract heavy scenario where there's a good number of points running around. You can definitely do something like that. So yeah, great synergy there. She also has a lot of the models that she synergized with in A Force there as well. Both Captain Marvel's, She-Hulk again if you were running her there. So yeah, I think she's also a really solid inclusion here. The next affiliation she's a member of is Hydra. And yeah, she actually has some really interesting play here, I think. I think she's a really solid model. First of all, I'm pretty sure she's their only objective drop, so that's always, immediately good value to have her there. But yeah, I think particularly she's really interesting in Strucker Hydra. Where you're going to benefit from handing out conditions. And of course, she's reasonably good at doing that with her builder there. So that's just great for her. If you can park her near Strucker or, of course, Zemo, benefit from Strategic Genius, get those rerolls as well. A little bit of extra value coming in there. So yeah, I do really like her as kind of a bit of a condition team under Strucker here. Looking at the other leaderships, I don't think she gets too much from Zemo's. Maybe it can be that extra slot to bring in her card that lets her go twice. So that could kind of be interesting there if you're trying to do something like that. Um, Obviously that card that leadership's fairly generic and is going to kind of benefit most characters in a very similar way. So I don't think it has too much specific relevance there, but it's not irrelevant either. And then, of course, Red Skull, Master of Hydra, has a fairly generically useful leadership, but it is a power leadership, so she certainly appreciates that, and she is going to be holding objectives most of the game. With that objective drop, she'll be able to very quickly reacquire extracts if she loses them for any reason. So yeah, she's got some fair bit of synergy with that as well. The other thing is because she wants to be handing out poisons because she wants that for her spender. You have a few tools to do that here as well. I don't know if Strucker himself actually hands out poison. No, I don't think he does. But just kind of in general, that is something that Hydra wants to be doing under that Strucker kind of objective focus thing, is handing out a bunch of conditions, and you can definitely take advantage of that to be bringing in other models that are handing out conditions, hopefully including poison in that case. So yeah, there's a little bit of value there as well. So I do think she's quite solid here. And polar opposite to Hydra, she is also a member of Shield. And yeah, I really like her here. I'll be honest here. I like her in all of the affiliations she's a member of. She gets something out of the leaderships here for sure. The defensive rerolls, especially if you're counting blanks from martial artists, can be really nice with invaders. Invincible Iron Man, again, dice fixing. We already kind of talked about that with Hydra. That's definitely solid for her. And Fury's leadership is kind of weird, but you can definitely really play around with something like Eye in the Sky from Fury to be able to play with those threat ranges. Move yourself into that martial artist range where you're going to really get a lot of extra value out of that. Or if you can't Eye in the Sky, if they damage you and you're winning on on score or you're tied, you get to move in, so their second attack at least will be in that martial artist range. So you kind of have a little bit of extra value from that half of the leadership there as well. So yeah, I really like her here. She fills again that role of objective dropper. Of course, they have Namor for that now as well, so there is a little bit of competition there. But again, it never hurts to have two of them. So yeah, she's just really solid here. And last but certainly not least is Web Warriors. She's amazing here. She plays right to their game plan. She's fast. She's relatively annoying to take down. You've got a reroll off of Miles' leadership for her, which obviously helps her out a bunch. All webbed up turn, she actually hits like a bit of a truck and can throw out some really strong conditions because of course you're adding dice, so you're higher chances of getting more wilds. So really nice there. Handing out those shocks is also super beneficial for the Web Warriors. Again, just keeping everyone alive. Objective drops, they've already got a few of them, but yeah, sure, they can have more. They certainly don't mind. So yeah, I she's just really good here. She's a great web warrior. I know for a while she was stapled to a lot of people's web warriors. It was kind of, okay, you go into the game and it's Spider-Man, obviously Miles, Gwen, and Spider-Woman was like the 10 threat core for a lot of people for a while. So I don't know if that's still the case. I haven't kept up too closely with the Web Warriors meta, but I know for a while she was a very big part of their main strategy. Looking outside of her affiliated places, I think she's going to kind of fill a similar role to Voodoo, who we talked about last week, in that she is a excellent splash anywhere you're just kind of looking for a objective dropper. I think if you're looking for one and your leadership doesn't specifically benefit her, though, I would probably lean towards someone else like Voodoo or maybe even Miles or Black Cat for that. The reason for that being that I don't think she's quite as self-sufficient as a lot of those other models can be. Largely just being that I do feel like she's a little bit more power hungry quite frequently. So I definitely like to kind of look at places where she's either going to get something to help her with those builder attacks to generate power faster, or just things that'll generate her power. Um, and of course she's affiliated in a lot of the places that do that, so she doesn't get too much out of many of the other places. But something like Cabal or even, yeah, I don't know, maybe even Brotherhood or something. She doesn't destroy terrain, so she doesn't really play to that game plan too well, but maybe she's the one model on the list that doesn't, sort of thing. But yeah, like original Red Skull Cabal could be interesting. Defenders for the rerolls could help you a little bit. Again, helps you put out some conditions too, not too bad. Nobody dislikes Guardians. I think somewhere like Inhumans could be really interesting for her. I think that's one of the places where I'd probably, if you're looking at boosting up her power economy, especially since she is a model that doesn't need to have that much power every turn. She just needs it once in a while, so you can kind of give and take from her as you need. So I think she could be really solid there. But yeah, she's already kind of affiliated in most of the places that have the leadership she really cares about. Stuff like Emma or Dormammu obviously benefit her as well for that similar reason. She's kind of got the bulk for Emma as well, which is quite nice. But yeah, I think those are kind of the big ones. For me, is like most of the places she's affiliated, she's already really good. And then like in Humans, and I think I'd strongly consider her in Emma. Outside of that, I do think one other place that's really interesting for her is Midnight Suns, because you have that bump in the night there, which you can really take advantage of, both having a bump and having her own range 2 place, being able to kind of go in and out of the different ranges that you care about there. You can really mess around with where she's positioned and what she's able to do with her attacks, especially if you're going up against like other martial artist style models. You can kind of use those two abilities to kind of bump out, get to that range 3, make your attacks, and then bump back in. You can kind of do some interesting plays like that. So I think she's got some really neat play there. They're not exactly hurting for objective drops either, but she could be really cool there. But yeah, I think she's kind of already affiliated in most of the places she wants to be, but she's still not a bad option anywhere you're looking for an objective drop. Especially if you're also looking for something that can kind of hand out some conditions and long move and stuff like that. She does have other things she's bringing to the table, more than just the objective drop. So that's obviously something to consider with her as well. But that is going to do it for this character spotlight here. Yeah, I really like Spider-Woman. I think at the end of the day, we're looking at a really solid objective dropper. The interrogate ability is super useful. Just kind of being able to pull an extra VP out of thin air once in a while can, first of all, really throw off your opponent's math, and just obviously can add up towards winning a game, especially if you can do it more than once in a game. It can really add up. So Yeah, between both of those things, she's great for the scoring game. She's got a lot of solid mobility, so she can rotate points really well. She's got some great conditions she hands out, specifically stuff for, slowing down your opponent's attrition. So, she might not hit that hard herself, but she's going to make it so your opponent doesn't hit quite as hard as they want to either, whether that's stun hitting their power or shock just hitting their attack dice directly. Really good things. She's got great defensive tech, but you do have to be careful. You got to watch your range bands. You got to try to be careful who you're putting her into too. Of course, stay away from mystic attackers at all costs. You probably want to avoid characters that can attack range 3 and more than that, have mobility to be able to make sure they're always in range 3 when they're attacking you. Avoid that whenever you can, of course, but not always going to be possible. And when it's not, she does still have reasonably solid defensive stats. It's not like she's got victim stats here or anything like that. She can take a hit usually, even without martial artist and stuff like that. So yeah, I think she's a really solid, really well-rounded model. She can do a lot of things. She's obviously kind of got her clear goal. You're not bringing her in a game where you're trying to table your opponent. You're bringing her in a game where you want to score out. You want to score out fast. And she's great for that. She's really good at playing that game plan. So yeah, I think she's a very solid model, but I'm curious to know what you guys think, where you guys have tried running her, where you've seen success. Did I miss any obvious combos or synergies? Definitely let me know down below. But that is going to do it for my thoughts on Miss Jessica Drew here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please do drop a like down below. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We do discussion focused content like this every week, or every weekday, I almost said every week. And we also have battle reports on the weekends. Man, could you guys imagine if I got daily with this? That would be so much. But we're not there yet, and probably won't be for a little bit. But yeah, where was I going with this? I've completely lost my train of thought. Anyways, that's going to be a good point to call this character spotlight a wrap. So once more, I hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, have a great day, everybody. Peace.